Shirley with the Fat Quarter Shop, and today in the Fat Quarter studio we have Angela Yosten, and she's going to talk to us about her brand new pattern, Baby Argyle. So tell me the inspiration for your pattern.
Well, on the flats clothing, I had come up with this little Argyle. I just love the Argyle prints. I think they're so adorable. And the boots, there's Argyle on the rain boots in the collection. And so the shirt, I wanted to mimic that design, yeah, in an actual shirt. So this is part of the Me and My Flats pattern that goes along with the dress. And then I also wanted to make it into a larger version, into a baby quilt size. So.
And tell me, what are the fabric requirements that somebody's going to need when they make this? Obviously, they need to purchase the pattern.
Right. Yeah, the pattern is called Baby Argyle by Angela Yosten Designs. And it uses just a jelly roll of the prints and then a solid layer cake in the Bella Solid White.
Okay. Color 98.
Yep, and that's all you need. So to make this whole quilt, and then you'll need some backing fabric, and binding. You can use actually leftover jelly rolls for the binding if you want and make it more of a scrappy look. So, yeah, I mean, bare essentials: 1 layer cake, 1 jelly roll, and backing fabric, and then the coordinating threads.
So we're going to just talk to you about the technique that she used to make this Argyle print. So tell me, what's the first step that you're going to take to make this center block? Obviously, these blocks that are offset are just Bella Solid layer cake.
Right.
Squares.
Right. Yeah. The main part of it is done with a jelly roll. And what you'll want to do is first separate your jelly roll into colors. And decide what color you want to make your Argyle quilt. I picked one to match the little shirt. I also did one in the red and the orange colorway. We're going to show the red and the blue colorway, but you can get actually about 2.5 quilts out of 1 jelly roll and layer cake. So you can mix and match however you want. If you want to do red in gray or orange and gray or whatever you want, it's really up to you. You just select your strips, separate them in colors, and then stitch them together lengthwise.
Together.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and just a quick little tip that I'd like to do when sewing the strips together is sometimes if you don't get your strips sewn, just right, it might start doing a little curve effect. So what I like to do is first put it in the machine with my ends matched up. And I don't use pins just because I want to be able to stretch those strips together so that way when I get to the very bottom, the ends are matching exactly. So, because your fabric is going to be exactly the same width in a collection. So what I do, in jelly rolls, they're folded in half when you get them. And so what I like to do is first match up my little center seams, and you can pin it.
Pin there.
Yep. And when you put it in the machine, I just kind of hold in both places and make sure it stays 1/4 of an inch and keep stitching. And if you have to stretch it a little bit, that's fine. It's just because the dies and everything might, shrink one of them up or something. So you just stretch it just slightly just to make sure they're all matched up so that way your ends end up exactly together and you won't get that curve.
Okay.
So once you get them all stripped together, you'll press them with all your seams going one way. So on the back, we just made all the seams going in one direction. And then you're going to just start cutting. I like to trim my edge off, and I've already trimmed the other side off.
So we trimmed this edge.
Yep, you trim off the selvage. And then I'm going to flip it back around here. I'm right-handed, so depending on what handed you are. And then you're just going to cut your strips. And the pattern will give you all of the directions on how wide to cut them and how many strips to put together. And you just continue to do that until you get all the way down to the end. And then the next step is you're just going to match your ends side to side and you want to sew, you want to stitch those together until you get one long strip of pieces all the way down.
Going that way. Okay. So now we're back, and Angela has sewed all of her 4 strips together, and you can see when we press this, we pressed all of them to the same direction on both. And as she mentioned, we're going to do a combination of blue and red. So Angela, what's our next step in the project?
The next step is cutting your angles. So you have your triangles to sew together to make your block that comes together like that. Okay, so let's take this one away, and we're going to cut our angles. And in the pattern, it tells you exactly how wide your strip should be before you cut, so that way all of your seams match up perfectly after you sew them together. So I'm just going to cut my angles. Let's see, let me line it up just right. Here we go.
And she's lining up with a 45-degree angle on the bottom. That's the line that the ruler's on.
I'm just going to slice that corner off.
So you can see the 45-degree angles at the bottom.
And now I'm just lining up my straight line along with that 45-degree angle. Okay, and so now I've got one of my triangle pieces that will go into the quilt.
And you're going to use 4 triangle pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and then now that you still have that triangle piece, I'm just going to go the opposite way now. Line it up and try it. So now I've got my 4 pieces. We'll move this aside. And you'll do this if you want 2 reds on either side and then a blue in the center. Then you'll continue to cut 4 more for your second set. And so you can play around with the triangles and figure out exactly how you want them placed. So if I want to move this one so my checkers are opposite of each other, I can do that, or it really just depends on how you want your triangles and everything to look after it's all put together. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to keep those aside from each other, and then you're going to stitch. You're going to put them right sides together and stitch a 1/4 inch on that side and then also on that side.
And then when you press, you'll press 1 to the right and 1 to the left, so the seams will nest. So we'll come back after we sew those together. So now we're back from the sewing machine. So Angela, tell me the next step.
Okay, so we've got the 2 sides sewn together, and now we're actually going to put the block all together by flipping this over and matching your right sides together, and you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam along this edge. And then once you get that done, then you have this, and you want to press it and press all your seams down, and then we're going to trim it up.
And we're trimming it to a 10-inch square.
So I'm just going to, I use my center seams just to align it to cut off my edges with the 45-inch degree angle. So I'm going to line that up with my 45-inch degree angle. And you'll have, it's very forgiving. So you might have to cut 1/2 inch to 1 inch off, but that way you've got a perfectly square block once you're all done.
So you're lining up this right
I'm
here.
lining up the center seam with the 45-degree angle. And if you're using a ruler like this one, then you'll want to make sure that you have your 5-inch marker in the center of your block, so that way when you're done with all 4 sides, you've got a 10-inch block. So now I've got an exact 10-inch square. And you'll do that with all 3 of them.
So now Angela has sewn all 3 Argyle blocks. We've done 2 of one color and 1 alternating. And Angela, show me how we're going to set the quilt together.
Okay, what we're going to do is pair this with a layer cake, a solid layer cake. And we're just going to start placing the blocks in between each one, just to lay them out. And we're doing this on point. So another way to look at this when you're sewing is after you get it all laid out, you're actually going to sew your strips together this way. Mm-hmm. And so I'm also going to I took one of these blocks and cut it in half so you can see how to do the edges of the quilt. I'll put that down. And then you'll also want to cut this in half again for your edge. For the edge down here, because one will go this way and the other one will go this way, but you need them a little bit smaller. So you'll have 2 quarter triangles there. And so once you get them all laid out, then you're just going to lay them right sides together and just start sewing your rows together on the diagonal, and then you'll sew the rows together to make the whole thing. And so once it's all sewn together, you'll end up with the quilt looking like this. So you'll see the blocks here are in between on point, and then we've got the quarter triangles here and the half triangles on the edges.
And tell everyone about how you did the stitching and at what point did you add this Argyle stitching.
Okay, after you get the quilt top piece together, then you'll lay it out. And you're going to take your ruler and your sew line pencil or whatever pencil that you like and draw a line. I just centered it in between each block and drew lines all the way. And you can kind of see here, sometimes you might go a little bit past, but once you wash the quilt, if you use an invisible pen, it'll go away. So you just draw your lines and then take your 12 weight Argyle thread in whatever color. I picked a gray for this particular one because I wanted it to contrast off of the red and the orange. And you just hand stitch those stitching lines on there. And then you quilt it and then put the binding on.
And this binding, you use the panel print where it has the instructions on how to make your flat panels. So you've got this cute binding that has little girls and words and makes it really fun and adds to the fun of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so for everyone, for more information, purchase the Baby Argyle pattern, and you'll have all the instructions to make everything. And make sure to visit Angela Yosten at angelayosten.com and visit us at fatquartershop.com. Thanks for watching.